Hey, welcome back to the What the Wealthy Do podcast, where we break down the money moves the wealthy make and show you how to apply those same strategies on your own wealth building journey. I am your host, Stephanie Dorsey, the CEO and co-founder of Margins Capital. We're an investment firm that is focused on providing women and people of color access to an institutional quality portfolio of alternative investments, as well as clearly providing private wealth management education to high earning individuals. So I'm in my series bag, right? So I want to shout out my cousin who inspired this new series that we're going to call, I haven't figured out what we're going to call it. We can call it the logistics series or how-to series or like, okay, girl, now how does this really work series? And we are going to break down exactly how the mechanics or logistics of a thing actually works, all right? Because we talk a lot about, just get an HSA or health savings account and do this. But we don't really talk about, okay, but what does that mean? And so that's what we're going to start doing. And today is the first. And I think I have like 10 of these scheduled that we're going to talk about, just really the mechanics of like, okay, now what? And so you're telling me to go to this website. Now what I do, right? And so that's what we're going to do. But before we get into it, remember this podcast is intended to provide financial education and not financial advice. All right. So this week's episode, we're going to be focusing on the health savings account. So if you listen to any of my other podcasts, when I talked about the HSA is the ultimate stealth retirement account. It is the only account with a triple tax advantage, meaning you have tax deductible contributions, you have tax-free growth and tax-free withdrawals for medical expenses. And it is literally better than a Roth IRA. But here's the problem. Most people have no idea how to actually set one up. And even fewer people know you're supposed to invest your contributions to it and not actually spend it. And so today I'm going to walk you through step by step the entire process, like click by click, so you can open an HSA, fund it, and invest it like a sophisticated investor would. So the first step, you want to determine whether or not you're eligible, right? Because everyone cannot open an HSA. You have to meet all of the following requirements. One, you have to be enrolled in a high deductible health plan. And so what qualifies as a HDHP or high deductible health plan in 2026 is an individual plan with a minimal deductible of $1,650 and a family plan with a minimal deductible of $3,300. You cannot be enrolled in Medicare or Medicaid, and you cannot be claimed as a dependent on someone else's tax return. Also, you cannot have any other disqualifying health coverage like a healthcare FSA or a spouse's low deductible plan that covers you. And so how to check if you have an HDHP? One, you can look on the back of your insurance card. Some of them will actually say high deductible health plan or HDAP, HDHP, or HSA eligible. Option 2, you can log into your company's benefits portal and check your plan details. Or you can ask HR, is my current health plan HSA eligible? And if you don't have an HDHP, you can switch during your company's next open enrollment. And that's usually in the fall for a January 1st start date. Now, I just went through this with a woman in the Sovereign Collective, and she did the math. At first, she was always thinking like, girl, no, I have some other things. I need my health care, blah, blah, blah. But when she did the math, she realized like, it does make sense for me to transition from my low deductible plan to a high deductible plan so I can take advantage of an HSA. So all that to say is don't make an assumption that it will or does not work for you. It might work. You just got to run the numbers and see if it makes sense for what your needs are and what your family's needs are from a medical perspective and a financial perspective, and then what your investment goals are. All right. So if your company doesn't offer a HSA, there are ways for you to go external and set up your HSA outside of your company. So let's talk about the pros and cons of each. So if you use your employer's HSA, the pro is it's an easy setup. Your employer might even contribute free money to your HSA. You can set up payroll deductions. And so these are automatic contributions that are taken out of your check, which allows you to save on FICA taxes, so that's 7.65% that happens automatically with payroll deductions. And so, but the cons are you are stuck with whatever HSA provider that your company chooses or offers. And then some employer HSAs have limited investment options, right? And some even have higher fees. Now, if your employer doesn't offer it, or you just want to use a different one, you can, and you get to choose a provider with better investment options and lower fees, and you have full control. The con, though, or the disadvantage to doing it this way is you're going to be contributing after-tax dollars, and you have to claim a deduction on your tax return, and you don't get the benefit of FICA tax savings, so that's 7.65%. And then you just have to set it up yourself, which is annoying sometimes. So, we don't do recommendations over here, but for ease, if your employer offers it, I would just use what your employer offers, because frankly, you just don't want to leave free money on the table, especially if they give you money and or the tax savings. But if the employer's offering has like the worst investment options or super high fees, then do the math to determine whether or not it makes sense for you to move. But here's a pro tip. What you could do is use your employer's HSA to get the free money and payroll deductions. And once a year, roll the balance over to a better HSA provider with lower fees and better investment options. So you can do that. So that's a hybrid. So let's talk about the step-by-step. How do I open an HSA? So if you're opening through your employer, step one, you want to enroll in a high deductible health plan during open enrollment. You want to log into your company's benefits portal, whether it's Workday, ADP, whatever, and you want to select the high deductible health plan. And the system should prompt you to open an HSA. But if it doesn't, then you might have to click around to figure out how to open an HSA. And then you want to set up your HSA contributions, and you want to decide how much you want to contribute per paycheck. Now, there are limitations the IRS sets up for 2026. For individuals, that limitation, you can only invest $4,300 per year for an individual or $8,550 for a family. If you're 55 and above, you get to add an additional $1,000 catch up. So, for example, you want to max out $4,300 to be taken out bi-weekly. That's going to be 26 paychecks. That's $4,300 divided by 26. That's about $165 a paycheck. Step 3 is you want to make sure you complete your HSA enrollment. Your employer will send your information to their HSA provider, and then you'll receive an email or a letter with account numbers and login credentials, maybe even a debit card that's going to be mailed to you within 7 to 10 days. Put that up. You don't need that, but don't lose it, but put it up. And you want to activate your account. So you want to log into your HSA provider's website, set up online access, verify your identity, activate your HSA debit card when it arrives. Again, we're putting it up though because we're investing it. We're not going to be using it to be paying for our medical expenses. And then, all right, let's talk about the timeline of this. You want to enroll during open enrollment, and then your HDHP starts January 1st. And then your HSA opens automatically on or around January 1st, and your contributions will start in your first paycheck of the year. If you have to open your own, or you elect to open your own HSA outside of your employer, you're going to research which HSA provider you want, be it Fidelity or TD Ameritrade or any of them, but you want to look at how much they cost, what investment options they have, and what their fees are. And let's just say you choose Fidelity. You're going to go to fidelity.com. You're going to click open an account. You're going to click HSA or health savings account. You're going to verify your eligibility, and they'll ask you, are you currently enrolled in HDHP or high deductible health plan? You're going to say yes. Are you on Medicare? No. Are you claimed as a dependent? No. Right? And then you're going to provide your personal information, name, address, social security number, date of birth, and the like, your employment information, beneficiary designation, who gets the money if you die. And then step 4, you're going to choose how to fund the account. So you're going to link your bank account for contributions. This time you get to decide whether or not you're going to set up automatic monthly contributions. I recommend you do, just to make sure that this is just one less thing for you to have managed. And again, in that that example that we used before, $163 every 2 weeks, or, $163 times 2 is 300 and 336, something like that. And then you want to submit and wait for approval. And then usually you're approved within 1 to 2 days, and you'll receive your debit card within 7 to 10 days. All right, so let's talk about how to actually invest your HSA. And this is a critical step that many people skip. You can't just open an account and be like, okay, I'm good, girl, because you're playing yourself. Now you got to put your money to work. The whole point of a HSA is to let it grow tax-free for years and then use it as a stealth retirement account. So what you're going to do, regardless if you have an employer-sponsored HSA or if you have a external HSA, you're going to log into that provider's website. You're going to look for invest or investment options section, and different providers have different interfaces, right? Like Fidelity has investments, click investments, and then you click trade. Health Equity might say click investments and then open investment account. So everyone is different, but the goal is click investments and go through that interface, that UI, to get to the point where you can start allocating funds towards an investment. And so you want to move your cash from your HSA account to the investment section of your HSA. If you're at a place where you're like, okay, girl, I got all this information and I still don't know where to get started, you should look into joining me and some amazing women in the Sovereign Collective, where we are collectively working together to support each other on our own independent wealth journeys. You can look us up at joinsovereign.co, where we are holding each other accountable and supporting each other as we build the investment portfolios of our dreams. Many HSA providers will require you to keep a minimum cash balance or have a minimum cash balance before you're allowed to start investing. And that's okay. You got to start from somewhere, right? So you got to have $1,000 before you can start investing, or $2,000 before you can start investing. And so that's fine. You will eventually get there. Then you want to choose your investments, right? Do you want to do a mutual fund or a target date fund or a index fund? They all have these options. And so you get to decide what you want to invest in. As you can remember, an index fund, that's a fund or exchange traded fund. It might track the S&P 500, or you can get one that tracks energy, or get one that tracks technology. If you want to do a target date fund, you say, all right, I know I am going to retire in 30 years or 20 years. I want you to go ahead and choose my investments for me, and they're going to choose a blend of stocks and bonds for you. A mutual fund is similar to an exchange traded fund, but it's more actively managed, and it might have a specific strategy aligned to it rather than just tracking the S&P 500. Be careful about the fees. So that is going to tell you where you want to invest. I think for ease, consider an index fund. It's easy. They have lower fees than a mutual fund that's more actively managed. But again, this is research that you have to do and make the decision that makes the most sense for you and your goals. Okay, so let me break down to after you open the account, you've invested in an account. Let's talk about the mechanics of how this thing will actually work and improve your life. Frankly, we're going to talk about what the sophisticated or wealthy investor, how they use the HSA. So most people, when they open their HSA and they get their debit card, they use their debit card to pay for doctor's visits or prescriptions or the like. And then they drain the account for small medical expenses, and they never invest it. And they miss out on decades of tax-free growth. But you ain't gonna do that. We already know you ain't doing that. You're not doing it. I already know you're not going to do that. What you're going to do is you're going to max out your HSA contributions every year, right? $4,300 for an individual, $8,550 for a family. You are going to pay all of your medical expenses out of pocket, just like you do today. Your life ain't going to change, just like you do today. But you are going to save every medical receipt, because you're going to need these for later, right? But obviously, you are already investing. Every year, you're putting money into your HSA, you're moving over the investment portion of your provider, and you're investing the money, and you're going to let that money grow and grow and grow over time, right? And then after you decide whenever, you retire or whenever it makes sense for you because you've been intentional about investing this money, you are going to reimburse yourself for decades of medical expenses, right? Because you have saved decades of medical receipts. So, because I told you, we're saving our receipts, right? And so you might have spent $10,000, $50,000 on medical expenses. You live in America, you've spent that money, right? But you're tracking every single expenditure, over-the-counter stuff, the vitamins you buy, like the glasses when you have to go and spend $1,000 on glasses, because we do. Like if you had to go to the hospital, if you got your colonoscopy, like you are going to track all of those expenditures. You're going to save those receipts. You're going to create a spreadsheet. They have all different kinds of apps, but I would just use Google Sheets, and you're going to write down, okay, May 3rd, 2026, I went to the doctor. I had a $60 copay. I scanned my receipt because keeping it on paper, it might smudge, all the things. You can keep it on paper too, but you want to scan it and you want to insert it in the line right next to your visit to the doctor, and it's right there. And you want to get in the habit of doing that, because when you want to go back and pull your money, depends on the provider. They might require you to show them all your receipts to start to draw down your contributions. You don't have to match a receipt to the growth, right? Because you've been investing your money and your money is going to grow. I mean, we see like even this year with a relatively conservative market, like the S&P has grown about 8%, right? So your money is going to be growing. You just have to track your expenditures to your contributions in, not to the growth. Also, another good thing about the HSA is there's no time limit. Unlike the FSA or the Dependent Care FSA, even though I contributed $4,300 in 2024, I don't have to incur all the expenditures to match that $4,300 that I contributed in 2024. I can have a big bill that comes up in 2026 that I can use to match or track back to the $4,300 that I put in 2024. So that's an important thing to remember. So this is what the wealthy do right. So they max out their HSA contributions every year, and then they invest 100% of those contributions and some type of stock, index fund, or whatever, right? And they save every medical receipt. And then they continue to max out even through like pre-retirement. They continue to max out and they let it grow, and they still pay their medical expenses out of pocket while tracking every medical expense that they incur. Every single expense, even if it's medical light, you track it, right? Even if it's, like I said, over-the-counter drugs, all of that, you track it. And then eventually, this is how you get your money out. Option 1, you reimburse yourself for decades of medical expenses because you've saved 10, 20, 30 years of medical receipts in your spreadsheet, and you spent $50,000 out of pocket on medical expenses over the years. Your HSA has grown to $200,000. You withdraw the $50,000 tax-free to reimburse yourself. And there's no time limit on that reimbursement. Option 2, you use it for current medical expenses, right? You're 65, you have Medicare premiums, you have prescriptions, long-term care, all tax-free withdrawals. Girl, I'm long-term care. My mother is in memory care right now, and it is a lot of money, right? So you get to use your HSA for that. It's a wonderful alternative to long-term care insurance, right? Because you can have long-term care insurance, but this can be an alternative to that. The third option, because you're healthy and you're amazing, you treat it like a traditional IRA. This extra $150,000 is like, I got this free money. It is what it is. After you get 65, you can start taking withdrawals from it. So there's a 20% penalty if you withdraw it for non-medical expenditures while you're under 65. If you're over 65, there's no 20% penalty. You are just going to withdraw it just as if you're withdrawing money from an IRA, and it will be taxed as earned income, which is annoying. But it's like, woo, I got some money. What am I going to do with my extra money, right? I'm not going to cry for you. So let's talk about why this strategy is so powerful. So let's just say, for example, you're 40 years old, right? You max out your HSA for 25 years. Not hard to do. You're 40. You're going to be 65 really soon. And that's how this thing works, right? And so 4,300, 25 years, that's $107,500 in total contributions. Let's assume a 7% annual growth. The balance at 65 will be $290,000 tax free, right? You have more than doubled your money. And so you pay $30,000 in medical expenses out of pocket over those 25 years. You save all your receipts. At 65, you can withdraw the $30,000 tax free to reimburse yourself, right? And you still have $260,000 left growing tax free. Right? You used it for Medicare premiums, prescriptions, all your medical costs in retirement, and you've turned $107,000 into $290,000 tax-free. And that is the power of HSA. You are going to have medical costs as you age, right? It is what it is. I want to double click on your expenditures. You have to keep records of your expenditures. The beauty about it is we all have a computer or a cell phone, and we have our stuff on the cloud. You create a Google spreadsheet, or if you want to do an app or whatever, you have the date, you have what the expenditure is, a description of it, the amount, and you upload a receipt and you have it. Also, remember, you can only reimburse yourself for expenditures that you made after you opened your HSA, so don't get cute. We don't play with the IRS. We don't do that, right? But other than that, there is no time limit on reimbursement. So you can reimburse yourself for an expenditure you made today in 25 years. All right, so let's talk about the common mistakes, and then we're going to wrap this thing up. One, people open the HSA and don't invest it. Or they open an HSA and use it for these very small expenditures, these $60, $30 copays and whatnot, instead of investing it. They don't save their receipts. You got to save your receipts just in case. Some providers will require you to share your receipts. Some don't. Right? But we don't want to play them games. We want to keep our documentation tight. You also don't want to contribute more than the annual limit, because the IRS will ding you a 6% excise tax. So again, we don't get cute with the IRS. President Trump can, but we can't. Also, not checking to see if your employer contributes a match. Many employers do. They'll put $500 or $1,000 into your HSA. And so we don't turn away free money at all. So make sure you validate that. And so what I really want you to take away from today is opening and investing in HSA is one of the smartest wealth building moves you can make. It's the only account that has tax deductible contributions, tax-free growth, tax-free withdrawals for medical. There are no required minimum distributions. So it can be used like a traditional IRA, except when you get 73, they're not going to make you take this money out, right? So we love that. All right, that is it for today's episode. We just walked you through exactly how to set up an HSA, fund it, invest it, and use it like the wealthy do. We created a checklist for you to use, and you can reference it in the show note. If this episode helped you, please share it with a friend. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We are on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. And next week, we're tackling the backdoor Roth IRA. So we doing what needs to be done here, okay? Anyway, have a good week. Bye.